Hello, hello. What is going on, everybody? Hold on one second. Let me just double check to make sure my connections are correct. Hopefully everybody can hear me. What is going on, everybody? My name is Ian Robinson. I am a ZBrush trainer here at Maxon, and we're doing a live stream today. We do it live all the time. How is everyone doing? Let me just make sure. Boop, boop, boop. Just double checking a few things actually are working the way they're supposed to be. Hold on one second. As I throw up all my good settings. Today we're going to be doing some really fun stuff. Why am I loading the GeForce experience? That's not what I want. I want NVIDIA broadcast. Hold on a second. Show me this. Just want to make sure my mic is going through. Okay, cool. What's up? Yeah. What's up, Matthew? Yeah, you like that intro? Super cool. Okay, first things first, I need to move this this QR code just a little bit because we're going to put this, actually, you know what we're going to do? I'm looking at OBS. We're going to put this right here. So this QR code, if you guys are interested, next week we are doing a May the 4th live stream with special guests, and we're going to have some prizes and some tips and tricks, and we're talking about ZBrush in the industry and various industries too. So if you guys are super interested in that, please stop by next week. It's on May the 4th. We also have some cool artwork. That being said, I'm actually creating this guy right here, Watto from episode 1, super awesome dude. Well, he's not an awesome dude. He's actually a terrible person. But I love the character design. So real quick, before we get into just sculpting him, I wanted to showcase that if you guys scan that code, you can also just take this and go straight over to showcase some of the work that you can put, because we're also going to be showcasing a lot of work that you guys post here because we want to honor you, the artist. So you can see here, Paul, Gabri, and myself, we posted up some of the stuff that we've done in the past. He's done some TIE Fighter stuff, and then we've gotten into some fun character works that, and even sketches too, that people have just put up. So if you love Star Wars, ZBrush related or not, doesn't bother me. Just if you just draw, like come in here, drop your stuff off in there. Look how cute some of these things are, like super adorable. I had to throw in some older work as well, but you can see here just a lot of fun stuff. So definitely put your work in here if you've done anything Star Wars, or if you're working on something Star Wars related. Look at this piece. This piece is super cool. So we're going to be showcasing a lot of your work as well, just to honor you and say thank you for using ZBrush and being with us for so long. So definitely check that out. That being said, let's get into it. We're just doing some sculpting today. Nothing too crazy. I do have a pure ref somewhere. I have a pure ref somewhere. But if you guys have any questions, you can always ask and say, hey, Ian, I have a question. And then you can just let me know what said question is, and then we can go through. Here's the reference I'm working off of. There was a cool little sketch that somebody had done I found on Google. But I'm not really going off of this sketch. I'm more going off of what the movie was, but then adding my own little flair to it. I like to kind of add a little spin, but honor the character. And since this character was already 3D at one point, I thought it'd be cool to reference him, but then make some of it my own. So I did a simple block out because a lot of you have seen me do blockouts before, and I didn't think it was relevant to just start from the beginning again. So I started this yesterday, and now we're going to get into Sculpt It. So let's do it. What's going on? Hello, hello. Let's get some tunes on, because that's how I like to work. I can't work without music. So let's put some music on. There we go. The volume was good last time I touched it, so hopefully you guys can hear it. It comes in soft, but we can move forward. It's a very slow song, so let's see. Let's find something a little jumpy. What did you learn from ZBrush today? Well, Ian browsed music for about an hour. Let's see here. Let's see, that's locked. That's locked. I want just some chill EDM. This might work. Okay, let's just leave it. All right, let's get into it. So right now, I did most of the block out. I want to fix some of the anatomy that I have going on here, and then we'll get through. Like, I really busted his eyeball here. So let's actually start tweaking this. He's still very low. He's low enough. He's under 1 million for his entire body, including the nails and stuff like that. So we actually can just kind of get in and clean things up a little bit. But let's actually just do a little bit of fine tuning. And then we'll get into some details, and then we're going to move into, and when I mean details, we're just going to get into some very light secondaries once we establish a little bit more of a vibe. and then we'll get into dressing him up, and that's where I think it's really gonna really shine. Now we have something like this. But this was about a 2-hour sketch. Hey, thank you so much. Yeah, I blocked him out yesterday. It's about a 2-hour sketch. It was pretty fun. But I want to be able to really... I think I want to actually spend some time with him. I'm not rushing him for May the 4th, but I want to get him pretty close. So let's see how far we get today. Maybe... well, I'm definitely going to probably run him through and get him... I've been playing with more animation, like getting my character's animation ready. I've done a few jobs like that in the past with a couple companies, especially during the pandemic. So, but I want to get a little bit, I want to do that more often. That's been part of my inspiration lately. And I actually want, I'm going to go with Matte Cat Gray, and I'm going to come up here to render. I'm going to do preview AO, and I'm going to turn this on. I love preview AO, especially when I was making stuff for 3D printing, because it gives me a sense of how deep a cut is, or how the shadows are going to be playing with them. So it gives me just a decent sense of the character, but it's not 100% accurate, but it gives me a good sense of where everything is, how it's looking, so I have an idea. It's one of my favorite features. So I'm going to go ahead and let's give him a little bit of a upper eyelid here. Although it is kind of blended in. His eye socket is technically blended in. He doesn't have a defined eyelid there, so maybe we go that route. Do you have any tips to make sure DynaMesh doesn't mess parts up like lips when mouth is closed? Yes, I do, actually. So the thing with DynaMesh that you have to remember is that the resolution is going to determine exactly how something is being affected. So I typically, like, let's actually do this on him real fast. I'm gonna hit save real quick. So here, for example, if I mask this section off here, so let's do one better. I'm gonna use proxy pose to move this guy just a little bit. So we're gonna come up here to proxy pose. I'm just gonna pick a detail amount that's usable, and the reason why I'm gonna do that is because I could just move DynaMesh so much faster. So if I were to go ahead and let's put this down here as an example. So the thing is that we'll leave this gap here, and let's do that. So you can see that I have a slight space in between it. Now, if DynaMesh itself is really, like, if the resolution is really, really low, i.e. right now it's at 152. So if I hit DynaMesh, you'll see that that's actually welding. So that space, the distance of the quads, this space is pretty close to that distance. So when you're working with DynaMesh and you don't want things to weld, you're going to have to increase the resolution. Now there's pros and cons to this. So if I increase the resolution to now 300, notice that only a little bit actually touched. And that's because that determined that that was close enough for them. So the pros to this is that if you up the resolution, let's just call it 520, and I hit start. Now this portion here, again, we're still getting a little bit of connection here. So if we wanted to deal with something like lips, what you could actually do is with the move topological brush, or if you go to your regular move brush and you go to brush and you go to auto masking and you turn on topological and adjust the range to, let's say, 3. Now what I can do is, even with a big brush, I can move just part of the lip away from each other. So again, these aren't different polygroups either. It's just the ability to move this part of it. So if you have lips that are really touching each other, they're really on top of each other, let's say something like this, okay, and I need to move that, with that move topological brush, I can actually grab that section, even though it's not a different polygroup, and I can move that away. So then when I turn on DynaMesh, I can find a distance that is ideal. So let's say something like this. And then when I turn this on, now it's not connecting. So again, DynaMesh is always going to try to weld the pieces that are next to each other, and that resolution needs to be high enough to hold that amount of detail. Because the way ZBrush works, again, is that all these vertices, the connecting points, that's where all the detail is being held. So if you turn around and try to get this as close as possible, and then you get that welding, use the topological move brush or move with topological turned on, and that's going to help you separate it far enough, or you increase the resolution at that point. Sculptris Pro is a temporary solution if you're working on detail and you use Sculptris Pro, but of course then if you turn on DynaMesh, it's going to wipe out your Sculptris Pro because it's going to rebuild the surface. So at some point in time, it's actually a better solution to move to subdivision so that you can keep the lips really on top of each other. But even in subdivisions, I'd be able to use that move topological trick to move the lips away from each other if I wanted to add more detail or give a little bit more volume. So that is the way I would approach doing it. And again, just with DynaMesh, it's just imperative to know that finding that distance where it welds and doesn't weld is going to be key to keeping details at lower resolution. So hopefully that was helpful. Exactly. You really need to make sure it's not super close, or just move into subdivision at some point. My train of thought is only stay in DynaMesh when you're sketching. I use DynaMesh all the time. It's a workflow I don't see me getting away from anytime soon. However, that being said, it's only for sketching in my pipeline and process. So like right now, I'm still kind of searching for the character as a whole, but you notice I'm not trying to get a lot of details or wrinkles in there. I'm just getting the defining factors that I think make the character unique and special. And then from there, once I get enough of that look, that's when I'll push it and move away from DynaMesh and go into subdivision. What's where ZBrush strengths lie anyways in that subdivision level. So I say move there as quickly and as efficiently as possible. But don't be afraid to stay in DynaMesh if you're still sketching. Like right here, I'm going to smooth down his eyelids a little bit and then just kind of refine that just a little bit here. And here, I know he's an alien creature, but eyelids wrap around the eyeball, so I want to push this part into his head a bit. So I'm going to do that. Did I turn topological off? I did. Okay, great. So we'll be moving in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Star Wars model. We got May the 4th coming, and if you guys see this QR code, please feel free to scan it if you want to enter your work, because we're going to be showcasing a lot of your work, as well as a bunch of fun guests and tips and tricks are happening. That's next Thursday, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be a fun show. Okay, so right here too, notice I'm like actually trying to add a little bit of volume, but it's actually kind of eating away at this side if I go with a bigger brush. So I could do one of two things. I can go to our brush auto mask and backface mask, which will always fix that. And then I won't be eating at the other side of it. Or I could just turn around and use the move brush with backface as well. And that will help me thicken that area. Because sometimes you don't need to add clay. You just need to kind of move things around. Give it a little bit of thickness. And go back to the clay buildup. Now here I'm actually running into a fun little issue that I always like, where I can't see the inside of his mouth. So we're going to do ourselves a favor. Going to mask this area off. And right about here, I'm going to add a new polygroup. Control W. So I can get in and work on the underside of his mouth a bit. Because this right here is all chewed up. So I can see where the tooth indentation is. Gonna smooth that down just a little bit. Get rid of that flip normal. Come through here. Perfect. Hello, Christos. How you doing? Welcome, welcome in, everyone. Today we're just doing some nice sculpting vibes, but again, if you guys have any questions. Also, too, there's been a few people who have asked for some Redshift streams. So probably when I get back, I'm going to Germany on a work trip, which will be fun. So when I get back from that, I won't be streaming next week. I'll stream, and then for a couple of weeks after that, I won't be streaming. But when I get back, I'll do some. I'll plan some Redshift focus streams. So if anybody's interested in that, just let me know. I'll show you guys how to utilize Redshift and ZBrush to get some concept or get your models looking good for concept work. It's nice because it's like I use it now, and I've had a few other artists reach out and said they've used it to just showcase what their character looks like conceptually before moving into final renders. And it's just a really cool way. We can get some neat results. So we'll do a project base on that specifically, so you guys will be aware. Do a little promo for it. But if you guys have any questions on it, you can always ask. All right, what's up, Daisuke? Everybody say hi to Daisuke. He's always here helping. Yo, yo, yo. Dude, your tips that you've been showcasing on Twitter for the Stormtrooper helmet. Awesome. Awesome stuff, dude. Okay. I got that fixed up a little bit. Boom. All right. Okay, so what I think we're going to do is... He's mostly blocked out. His shape's looking fairly good. We need to get his nostrils in here because he can't breathe right now. So I'm going to start with DynaMesh. Oh, sorry, DynaMesh with DamStandard. I'm just going to carve in a nice little spot here. Boop. Troopers unite, nice. It's fitting too because I just did the Death Watch Mandalorian helmet in my previous stream. So, okay. So you see this part right here. This is something I want to focus on. This little section right in here. So you see this really nice faceted nostril I just sculpted in there. So this is a good indicator that when you're sculpting in ZBrush, when is something too low? And this is a good indication of that. Because here, I can already tell that the geometry wants to fight me just because I'm trying to get like a decent block out. And the more I push it, the more it's just stretching. And if we turn on the wireframe, you can see here, we're really pushing that too much. So this is your first red flag that something is too low. And this is where you get to make a decision in your sketch. Do I just go to Sculptris Pro or do I up the resolution? I'm pretty low, what I consider low. We're under 1 million for a full character. So this is where I would say, I'm going to up the resolution. And I do this in increments. Usually when I sketch, I start with 32, then I move to 64, then I go to 128. Here, I'm going to go to 256, and then I'm going to go ahead and rebuild that surface. And that usually does the trick for me. And so now I'm going to come through and get that nostril kind of carved up a little bit. It's still a little low for what we're doing, but I think we can make that work. So rebuild here. But this is a really good spot to be like, oh, okay, this area might be too much detail for the blackout phase that we're in, but I want a decent shape there first before I move to subdivision. So just something to kind of keep in mind. So I actually, to help me kind of do a ZRemesher on this character, I'm actually going to push this pretty far in and try to rebuild that inner surface. And then we'll do a subdivision rebuild. And then we won't focus on too much detail there. Just enough to get the idea that, woohoo, he has a nose hole, a nostril. Hey, by the way, the Star Wars helmet you did was really neat. Oh, thank you, Oliver. Thank you so much. The sculpting on a model with UVs distraught the UVs. And better, in general, it's better to have UVs at the end, not in the middle of the sculpting process. Yes. So yes, what Daisuke said, 100%. Because the thing is that what you have to remember is that, and this is probably when you study a little bit of like rigging and weight painting a little bit, the UVs on the mesh when you're working with like a real-time character. The UVs itself are going to be generally intact because you're not adding volume or any type of massive detail to that low resolution. All that's being driven by maps. However, when you're sculpting, if you have a model with UVs on it already and then you're sculpting and then you're subdividing up and you're sculpting, when you go ahead and start sculpting on that first subdivision level, you basically just like destroyed your UV. You're stretching, you're adding too much detail, you're stretching the mesh, then you're adding subdivisions and you're adjusting it. So the UV is not going to map correctly because you're stretching those points of contact. So think of it like when you have like a chocolate wrapper and then you go ahead and you put it around something that's what it came off of, right? You have a normal sized candy bar, the wrapper's on there, but then you take that off and then you put that on a much bigger wrapper. It's not, you're gonna have to stretch it and it's not gonna work. Or something smaller, it's gonna crumble. UVs work very much the same way. So the thing that you can do, and a tip for you, is if you're gonna sculpt on anything that does have UVs, when you're at subdivision level 1, you're gonna come here to morph target and you're gonna store a morph target on subdivision level 1. And let me explain why. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to save this real fast. So I'm actually going to delete this. Let's come up here to, like, let's just say a basic sphere. So I'm going to take a basic sphere. Let's go ahead and solo this out. I'm going to put this up here on the front. Hit every button other than the one I want to. And let's actually make this a separate polygroup. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and let's do polygroups. Sorry, not polygroups. We're going to go UVs. Going to delete this UV here just because I want to really showcase this UV. I'm going to just unwrap by polygroups. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. Come through here, morph UV. So you see here I have these very generic, very basic UVs. So what happens is when you start sculpting, when you come here, do a morph target first. So you're going to store that morph target, okay? Now you can start the sculpting process here. So let's say we absolutely need this here. This is good for displacement maps too, by the way. So when you start sculpting now, okay, and then you subdivide and you're sculpting, boom, 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 and then now you want to actually go back to the original mesh that you had. What you could do is drop back to your lowest subdivision level and switch back to that first morph target. This will be the clean model that you're going to go ahead and generate from that UV. This is a way that you could save those UVs. But again, best practice, like Daisuke said, is to keep the UV process at the end, when all you're really doing is maybe adding detail and, you know, tertiary details to your model, because then you won't be risking stretching anything. Once you stretch your mesh, that UV, while it still exists, if I come up here to my UV and I say, okay, morph UV, it still exists, but it's not going to map 100% correctly. That's also why you can come up here to your texture, and what you could do is actually come up to master checkers, and we have UV master checkers that you could do here. So you could come up here, say, okay, new texture. Let's actually do a, let's actually create from polygroup, and then from here, I'm gonna go ahead. We got this guy there. I want to click this so I have a texture on this side. I want to clone this guy. Perfect. Now I can come over here and add this. And now if I solo this, fade this out, you can see here how that stretching is occurring on that checker. So while everything else looks nice and clean, the A, the 9, the B, the C, all that looks good, as soon as you start getting to that stretched mark, you're just pulling on that UV. And then that means that the map is not going to project correctly, and you're just going to be really just tearing that up. So hopefully that's helpful. That was just probably a ton of information, but this will be chaptered after the end of the stream. So yep. Okay, cool. You are so welcome. All right, let's go ahead and delete this guy. Delete the one. Perfect. All right. Okay, let's make his nose a little bit, just a little bit bigger. All right, so we're gonna click on this guy. Let's get rid of that texture. Come over here, make sure back face is turned back off, so I can move this around. There we go. All right. Okay, cool. So what I'm gonna do now is there's enough information here to actually get a decent ZRemesh. I'm not worried about cleaning a lot of this up right now. I rarely work with the idea of getting a lot of details that then I just kind of project back. But if I do any type of project history, it's just to get the main shapes, and then I smooth away the majority of any quote details that should be there. But I do want to make sure that maybe some bony landmarks are here enough to give me the sense of what's happening. So like here, this is a weird ugly knuckle. So let's clean that up just a bit. That's where the bone would more likely be. Let's clean that. All right, cool. Got this, smooth that part down. That was terrible geometry. All right. So let's see about getting some sort of ZRemesh going on, something that's going to look probably decent. So he's actually pretty well polygrouped, and I think that can be used in our favor. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to hit save next just so I have another iteration. I will do a quick store on this, so control tap that upper history bar. And then we're going to utilize these polygroups to give us some decent geometry here. So what I will do here, I'm actually going to go ahead and, not the fill, let's turn the lines off, but I want to showcase the color so you can see this a little bit better. But here, this is really, really nasty in this area. So this was just kind of where my mesh ended up being. So I'm actually going to click these 2 points and create a new polygroup, something a little bit different. And then from here, same thing with this. What I'm going to do is re-separate these guys. Now with the mask brush, let's actually create some cleaner polygroup selections. Maybe here in this area, let's get just mask pen. Kind of paint this under the deltoid area. Tighten that up just a little bit. Control W just to get a different polygroup. Maybe yellow. Perfect. Let's hide that. And let's do the same thing with his lower body. Let's do something like this. Let's actually get this section here. There we go. Utilize mask for this part here. Let's get that in there. Clean that up. Okay, something like that should be okay. And here, you know, let's do this. Let's come through here. Let's actually mask that section. Let's get something like that. And then same thing for this head, neck area. Now these aren't going to be my UV seams. This is just going to be where I could tell ZRemesher to take a good look at it. But see these two colors here? While ZRemesher is going to be smart enough to pick up the difference between these two colors, I personally really enjoy having very contrasted colors before doing any type of ZRemesh, because it's just for my visualization. I know it's going to look pretty good. So I'm going to save that. Now we're going to come up here, and I'm going to give you the secret sauce on how I use ZRemesher. This has been a workflow I've really dove into for the last year and a half. So with ZRemesher, the thing is that we want to make sure that we're working with a model that has almost 2.5 million polys. So if I start ZRemeshing at 5 or even 10,000 target polys, that's way too low to take 2.5 mil and drop that all the way down to something usable. So I'm going to start relatively high. I think 50,000 would be perfect starting spot, because I want ZRemesher to give me a good secret of, I want to have the best success possible when doing any type of ZRemesh work. So I want to know that this 2.5 million polys could be transferred over to a decent mesh. And so 50 is going to be pretty good starting spot. I'm going to leave adapt on, but I'm going to go ahead down here to the adaptive size. I'm going to turn this down to 0. And the reason for that is that when adaptive is turned on, it's telling ZRemesher, hey, all the quads, pay attention to the mesh and the integrity and how it flows. And I want you to adjust the sides of the quads to the mesh. So if a part of it can be stretched, stretch it. If a part of it needs to be shrink it. However, I want as even quads as possible, but I still want that adaptive function turned on. So with the adaptive size turned down to 0, it gives me pretty much even quads across the board. So I don't have to worry about it, you know, being bigger or smaller it's going to be more even. Man, my brain is dead today. Sorry. Hopefully all this is coming out right. And then keep groups down to 0 with SmoothGroups, because I want to keep my groups, but I want to smooth those groups. But before I hit ZRemesher, the last thing is deformation. I'm going to smooth these groups by polishing them. And that's going to help me kind of keep these lines a lot cleaner. So I'm going to go polish groups, and that's going to smooth that down a little bit. We could also go to brush up here in the light box, and we could go to smooth and smooth groups and say okay. And then what I could do is turn off the RGB, and I can smooth some of these groups down, which is going to then help clean that up, and it's going to give ZRemesher a better track when it comes through and tries to keep those components together. So I'm going to smooth these down just a little bit. I could also go to smooth groups, turn on that little eyedrop, that little dot, open that up. That gives me a stronger algorithm. So that's going to really polish that up. And now from here, we're going to go to geometry, back to ZRemesher with these settings. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. I'm also going to make sure that my time step is correct. Let's see here. If you want to rig a character, if you want to rig the rest of this character, would you sculpt it with the eyes open? It depends on the client work. For me, yeah, I would leave the eyes open. I personally would leave the eyes open. I've never been asked to have an eye character closed for an animation, but I also didn't specifically work for characters in animation. My main background is toys, but I've done some freelance projects with character animation, and some of the characters had eyes blinking, and I would say that I've never been asked to have the eyes closed. But again, that's something that I recommend you always check with your team. How do they prefer it? Because they have a system. Everybody's system, while the pipeline is pretty much the same throughout most studios, I would say the difference isn't that the pipeline changes as much. It's what does the studio prefer, and what is it that benefits them, because everybody does things in a very unique way, and there's a reason for that, and it's always good to ask that. So I wouldn't dwell on that type of nuance. I would say whatever you think makes sense. If you want to have them open, have them open. You want to have them closed, have them closed. But when you get a job, ask them that question. Hey, do you want the eyes open or closed? You know, that's something they'll probably tell you anyway, but those are good questions to ask. So I would say always ask when in doubt. But as far as personal work, that's completely up to you. Yep. Ask your lawyer, Chuck. Exactly. Okay, cool. So here is the wireframe from this. So we went from 2.5 million active points to just above, or just under 80,000 points. And this is actually not too bad. This is pretty good. Now, I never settle on the first remesh. I am the type of person who's going to say, you know what, how low can we go? So this is where I would go ahead and say, let's actually go half, especially since I'm seeing a little bit of tearing here in this area, but that could be cleaned up. That's just because it had a little bit of a struggle there, but I can clean that up. So I'm going to hit retry. If we're on 2023, you could just hit ZRemesh at this point. I'll hit retry just because it's going to take a look at the original cached model the first time I ZRemeshed, and it's going to try to do it again, but half the amount with, and see what it gives me. So it's going to take that original mesh, look at it, and give me half of what I originally asked for, and see if we could do something like that. And if I hit smooth, I'm not going to do smooth groups. I'm going to go back to my normal smooth brush. So I'm going to go smooth, and I'm just going to do a relax smooth here in this area. Okay, we got a little bit of a spiral. I've seen worse. Just doing a light little smooth relax on it just to see if that's fine. Let's look at everything else. But again, this is why I do the polygroups, because it keeps those quads even where I need them to be. Get a nice little smooth area. I'm going to try to fix this portion here, and I'm going to do that utilizing ZRemesher guide, and I'm going to drag down a line here. Actually, let's do it on the screen left side. So I think we can do okay there. I'm also going to put a curve coming up here like this, because that's a little low. And I'm actually going to go ahead. That's at 15. Let's bump it back up to 20. But I'm going to turn the curve strength up so that it'll pay attention to those curves I just drew. Okay. That might be okay. I think I can live with that. We're not going... We're not going for animation ready or anything. We're going for close enough. Okay, you see this little spot right here? I have two very interesting little quads. Let's actually come here over here. I'm going to stitch this point and this point together. Get rid of that extra one. I don't really need that. Again, going back to that ZRemesher guide. Let me see if I tell it to curve this way. If that's going to benefit me. I'm going to go with the same. Let's try that. And that's fine. That's sculptable. I don't like this spot here. I think this was better, actually. Let's back that up. Okay. I think this might be good enough for government work. So let's move that down here. This is pretty gross. Let's see. If we come here and I go this point to this point, just collapsing those edges. What's that? It's a weird pull there, but it's still... I don't know if that's better or worse. So what's really happening is this might be too low. This is 32,000. This actually might be a little too low for what I'm trying to achieve. So let's actually double that. Let's try one more time. Put this back to 50. Because I need something I can sculpt on too. That's more important than... If you want clean mesh, that's what Retopo is for. Okay. Let's see what this looks like. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do ahead... Before stepping up, I'm going to do a first projection. So I'm going to go Subtool, Project. I'm going to project history. All right, kind of bring back some of that slight little, primary shapes that we needed, especially there on the eyelid, because this is too flat. But now here, at least we're getting a little bit of defining. Now I'll step up a couple times and reproject. Again, my character was 2.5 million. So here I'm just under... I'm like halfway up to 1 million. But already that might be pretty decent to move forward. Let me see. This is where you could just take your time too. There's no rush for this. Okay. Let's smooth that down. Doing a smooth relax where I'm just smoothing with shift and let go of shift. That does a nice little relaxed smooth. There we go. Okay, cool. I never go super high with my resolution after a ZRemesh. I work low because I want to make sure that everything works fine and that it's good. This is the stage where I'm done making big changes and now I want to correct any volume or anatomy that just needs to be cleaned up, but I'm not going to be making huge changes. Let's get his pectoral just built back up a little bit. Relax, smooth that back down. Okay. You know what? I actually lost this guy here, so I'm going to push this here. Okay, let's actually get rid of that one. Let's get rid of that one. Yay! Okay, great. That's back. Forgot the QR code was dropped. All right. So now, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and kind of push that in a little bit. Okay, we can step up just a little bit more and correct a lot of this. There we go. And then I think we're going to start getting him dressed. He has no pants. Well, he doesn't have any pants either. He needs a shirt. Utilize some of that through here. I don't like my hands are a little shaky, so lazy mouse for the win. Let's come up here to stroke. Turn lazy mouse radius up a little bit. Step this back down. Do a little bit of a cleaner job. Hey, what's up, Icy Film? Awesome to have you here, man. Awesome. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for the kind words, dude. Means a lot. I love coming on here and sculpting and talking. All right. So we're just only concerned about the relatively decent idea of it. Let's get them in here. So this is actually pretty strong intensity for what I want to do here, but I want to make sure that his eyes are separated. So I'm going to actually come up here to stroke and really increase that lazy radius. Come through, push that in. Let's clean up the eyelid area. And his eyelid doesn't quite have a lip to it the same way as a lot of human eyes. They kind of blend right up here, which some people's eyes do that. It's not abnormal. Just not how I usually sculpt it. Okay, let's get some clothes on this guy. So I'm gonna put him over here, and let's get to that section real quick. All right, so let's get him dressed. So let's go look at the concept here real quick. So we have a couple cool things. Yeah, he has a vest on him, which is really fun, which also has some strings to it. So we're gonna go ahead, and his vest here is actually looks like to be a three. I need a good shot of his backside. Maybe we can make that part up, but it definitely looks like we have at least 2, maybe 3 pieces. We have this main one here, and then this backside. Let me look actually see real quick. If I go Watto, Star Wars, and let's do character sheet. I usually Google character sheet because I want to see if somebody had dropped any type of like side profile. Somebody sculpted it before, which is kind of cool. It's always neat to see what other people do. I try to avoid looking at other people's sculpts unless it's the original works, just because interpretation happens. Let's see. If I say back, was there a good shot of his back? This is where I should probably just load the film and watch it. Okay. Well, we could do initial block out and correct when we need to. So let's start with that. So we're first going to utilize this base mesh, and we're just going to be doing the extract method. So I'm going to solo this out. And we're going to go ahead and mask like this. Yeah, Enemy was super fun. Thank you for everyone who stopped by and hung out. It was super cool to have you all there. And to present. Also, too, real quick shout out. Matt, by the way, buddy, I got it. It's right here next to me. Thank you so much for this, dude. This thing is so freaking cool. And I love the smell of it. So, Matthew, if you're still here, thank you, man. Blew me away with that thing. That was super awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and clean this vest up here. I'm going to sharpen that a bit. I'm going to take a look at the reference pretty closely. So I want to make sure I get it right. I wonder if I should do it. One day I'll take the time to learn Japanese. You absolutely should try to learn Japanese. I have been taking like way too long. I've been slowly practicing it myself for a couple of years. I know very little, but I know a little bit enough to like say like proper greetings and stuff, but I want to get better with it. I was debating if I should actually do this in a couple chunks. It looks like it's stitched together. So I'm going to build this very similar to the way it seems to be built in real life. And what I mean by that is if you look here, this is a section, then stitching, then this is a section, then stitching, and then this is a section. So 1, 2, 3 pieces just on that side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to come through here. And this middle section here needs to come off anyway, because that's just the back strip. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to sharpen that area up. So this part comes like this here. Make sure that this is cleaned up. While watching, you speak with super fast hands on the show. It's really oh, thank you so much. You got like this. It's always coming. Okay, so let's move this. I'm going to tighten this up here a little bit. I'm not super worried about being really, really clean. I said that as I try to make sure this looks really, really clean. But I think this backside here is disconnected. I will get a definitive answer on that. But I'm going to do this section first. So we're going to work in sections. So we're going to come through here. Now, when I do an extract method, I always, with clothing, go with thickness of 0 100% of the time. And the reason is because I want to work with single-sided geometry when I'm building things up. So, and I like to work in small chunks. So here we're going to be working with just this guy. I'm going to say extract. Can't really see anything, so I'm going to hit accept. And now we have this guy here. And this comes pre-masked. I'm going to go ahead and soften that mask just a teeny, teeny bit. So this way I can actually come up here to geometry. I'm sorry, to deformation. And I'm going to just polish by features. It's going to clean this line up a lot. Or you could just do a straight polish. And then from there, we're going to go to geometry, ZRemesher. This is okay to start super low because I don't want this really, really thick. But again, the same secret sauce. Keep curves, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, AdaptiveSize down. And actually, I'm going to go even lower, say ZRemesher. Let's see. Hey, Ian, can you tell me, is there a way to give even domeness to a planar surface with ZModeler or anything else? Doop, 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 doop. Is there a way to give even domeness to a planar surface? If I give me 1 second. Give me 1 second on that. I'm gonna come through here like this. Same. I want to make sure I understand your question, actually. There we go. ZRemesher guide for the win. I'm actually going to step that back, come down like this, and then I'm going to go same, same. Okay. You know what I'll do? I'll fix that. Here's how you fix this. Come through here real quick. I'm going to come through. I'm going to select these, hover over this face. Delete, boop, there, and then from this guy, we're going to come through here. Looks like we need to add just, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6. I'm going to bridge these together, so I'm going to go bridge. Done. Smooth, relax. Okay. Let me save real fast. Okay, so even when you say even domeness, are you talking about like, so like for example, if I want to give this, if I want to end up giving this some even, I should fix that. Even domeness to a planar surface. Like, are you talking about like thickness? I might be a little confused on the question you're actually asking. Like, are you talking about like, not deletes because we don't want to do that, but if I go Q mesh, come over here, polygroup all, and I do this, this is going to be even all the way across the board, especially if we do like dynamic subdivision with no smooth and I add a thickness. Adding that thickness is going to keep that as even as possible all the way around. So is that what you're referring to? Sorry if I don't quite understand the question. Watashi wa nihongo go sukoshi shika hanamasu. Oh, man, I just totally butchered that. Do you know Japanese well? Told you, I don't know a lot. I need to practice. You're just watching the third season of Mandalorian. I'm going to go see Return of the Jedi at the theater on Saturday for its 40th anniversary. We're definitely in the Star Wars mood. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to tell you guys right now, their little secret is that I actually really, really love Return of the Jedi. Part of it is the fact that I watched that movie a lot as a kid. All of my friends really in my family loved Empire Strikes Back, and it's a great, great film. But for some reason, I connected more with Return of the Jedi. Could be my age. Could be the fact that I just wanted to be different. Who knows? Oh, he just said, I only speak a little Japanese. Okay, cool. I got the Watashi wa and the Nihongo ga. I understood that part, so I knew it was about Japanese. The other two. The other three words, I was like, eh? Okay, cool. That's something that I'm actually trying to, like... I will tell you the part I'm struggling with learning Japanese is the English language is super repetitive. I am Ian Robinson. I am going to be 40 next week. I am, you know, here in the U.S., you know, I live in California. I. It's like English is such a repetitive, redundant language. And that's the part that's throwing me. When when you're speaking in Japanese, you establish that topic first, and then that topic gets, like, don't even talk about it again until you change topics. So that's the part that I know it's just my brain. For me, the way I learn things is it has to click. As soon as it clicks, then after that, I'm able to actually to understand it fully. So I need to be in it, and however long that takes. I know some people learn language in like 3 months, and I'm like, that's amazing. I can't do that. But I'm in it every single day. I actually do the Duolingo app. I've been in it for 76 days. Streak, super proud. And I'm doing Japanese from zero. But it's just about, like, being into it. Love for Ewoks? Leonard coming in hot. Actually, the Ewoks didn't bother me so much. You know what it was? I will tell you what it was. Is that, and I had this conversation a lot with quite a few of my friends / peeps as well, is that I could tell that, like, okay, so like that whole gray Jedi thing, which doesn't really exist. That's fan fiction, and that's fine. Like, but for me, like, it's the idea that Luke was like teetering. He was teetering on the dark side, right? Like that was it. And even later, it came out that was the direction they wanted to go, but they unfortunately didn't because of, you know, of merch sales and deals that they've made and stuff like that. As I understand it, that's actually the reason why Lucas stopped working with his partner, was they had a big disagreement about the direction of the film. So that being said, like, there's a part of it. I was always into martial arts as a kid, so there's a lot of that, like, oh, you want to be careful when, when you have knowledge to hurt others, should you hurt them or protect? You're always struggling with the notion of, like, being true to yourself, but also to becoming powerful, right? And so there was something about, like, when Luke, the thing is like, when Luke shows up in the beginning of Return of the Jedi, he went from, like, kind of a whiny, I understand this, and bombshell of Vader being his dad, really spoiler heavy all of a sudden for, like, if you have not seen Empire, I'm really sorry. It's just, like, really, really sorry. Go watch it. We'll watch it together. But it's just like, you're like, he just got, like, all of this, and then the first time you see Luke in Return of the Jedi, he's just a beast. He's just, like, all of a sudden, like, I am a Jedi. Forget this. Like, he comes in wielding hot and heavy. And for me, that confidence between one to the other, it's like, damn, dude, Luke just went from being, like, the kid you made fun of to, like, a badass. Like, he just, like, went super hard. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know. Honestly, as a kid, I struggled with confidence. I struggled with with being able to like be true to myself type thing. So something about that resonated with me pretty heavily, and yeah, I just loved it. And I know a lot of people are like, Return of the Jedi, whatever. But for me, it's one of my favorite films. I really, really like it. I resonated really well with it. So it's probably along those lines, if I'm being honest. Well, be honest, Ian. Great, wonderful. So, oh, okay, cool. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's see here. Oh, Pooja, I want to make sure. Yeah. Chad Luke Besley. What I mean was that suppose if I extrude a leaf shape with mass extrude, now that will give me different polygroups and plane surface. I want the plane surface raised evenly. Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, totally understandable. So you have a leaf, or AKA a vest, and you're going to come through here, and you're going to come through with ZModeler. Boop, perfect. And then you have this extrusion out. So let me do this real fast. Come over here, say extrude. Okay. Ooh, look at that. I just found some broken mesh. All right, let me fix that real fast. This guy and this guy. Get in here. Okay, this is where I'm going to drop my brush size. Okay, you know what? I'm going to hide that corner and that corner. Delete hidden. What are you? It always happens to delete hidden. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, so you have some thickness. Boop. What is the heck? Hold on one second. Sorry. Snap. Thank you. Okay, cool. We have some thickness. All right, so you have some thickness like a leaf. So here's the thing. So best practice is to basically, if you know you're going to be having uneven geometry because you're working with dual-sided geometry, best practice is to work with single-sided geometry as long as possible, which is why I do that with clothing, because of the very reason you're actually explaining, when you need to move things evenly from one spot to another. But if you have thickness and you would like to move it evenly across, then with ZModeler, hovering over your main polygroup, and if you don't have different polygroups, then make sure you go to polygroups and group by normals. That's going to be really helpful. But then from here, as I start to extrude this out, okay, press and hold shift, and that's going to grab that polygroup and pull that out evenly across. But your mesh, so it's going to be evenly against that plane. So it's always going to push more on this plane here, just like you would do an extrusion. We press and hold control from here. But the crazy part is when you're working with double-sided geometry, there's always this possibility. And to the best of my knowledge, there's no way of really avoiding this outright when you're working with dual geometry. So you will want to just kind of make sure that you can give this some thickness, pressing and holding control. Press and hold smooth shifts to do that. However, I will say this: when you've collapsed the other side, just grab one of the polygroups, either by selecting it or pressing and holding control and separating that out, and go back to working with single-sided geometry. It's always going to move evenly when you're doing something like this, pressing and holding shift. It's always going to move evenly based on the geometry of the plane that you're grabbing. However, again, you are going to, it's kind of bound to the original position of what it is. Some shapes are not going to be as forgiving as others, and if the geometry is busted, you're going to find out real fast. But I would say that's the best approach to go about doing that. This is where dynamic subdivision with thickness comes in clutch, because this is how you keep your thickness correct the whole time. By coming into dynamic thickness, dropping, even if you have smooth groups, let's say smooth 2, and you have thickness, it doesn't matter how thick this is. When you're moving this around, okay, I'm only working with single-sided geometry. Meaning that once you're ready to apply thickness at the end of it, this is going to help you keep that even thickness always. So if you're working with double-sided geometry and it's really thin like a leaf, I highly recommend that you work with single-sided geometry, get it in shape, and utilize dynamic thickness to provide that even geometry all the way across the board. But again, if you already have it, then either do, like I said before, where if you already have thickness and you're coming through, isolate the one topology and then move away from that. Let me know if that made sense. Other could hate for my opinion, but my favorite Star Wars is Episode 1 and 7, Force Awakens, because I love J.J. You love the J.J. Abrams director. Yeah, I love J.J. Abrams as well. No, you know what? I personally, I never hate anybody for liking any Star Wars. The fact that you like Star Wars, I start questioning, you know, when you tell me you haven't watched Star Wars, and then I'm about ready to run a 14-hour marathon with you. So, how do you get Ian to sit down and watch a movie? Tell him you've never seen Star Wars. Yeah, that's how you do it. Okay. Let's actually come through here, delete hidden, boom. Actually, let's back this up to where I broke it. Okay, mirror and weld that. Okay, let's continue forward. Now here, instead of remasking this shape, what I will be doing next is actually coming through and duplicating this shape out. So here, I'm actually going to come through here with a regular ZModeler, and I'm going to grab this section right here, the temporary selection. I'm going to go ahead with QMesh, drag this out, but I'm going to press and hold Control. That's going to give me a separate piece. And now we're going to manipulate this one piece. The reason why I'm choosing to do this, not keeping them together, is because I actually think the final model, I might just loop them all together, but I won't have them merged. Yeah, I think that's going to be a better approach. And then I'm actually going to go ahead, come through here, going to group this section. Same thing. Okay, now at this point, I have different polygroups. So what I could do is when you're extruding this out too, by the way, you can tap Alt a few times, or if you didn't, you could just do auto groups, and that would work as well. So if you're dragging this out, you could just press Tap, Alt, there. And then just come through, add that gizmo, move that on. Now we have a second piece. There we go. We can keep this here. And just work with that single-sided geometry on the side. Okay, perfect. Let's just do a light smooth groups. And again, I'm actually going to do auto groups just to keep all that piece, keep those pieces separate, mirror and weld, just so that it's good on each side. Okay, now let's get a band across him on the back side here. And the way I'm going to go ahead and do that is I'm actually going to come back to this area here, grab this section, clear this mask. Now I'm just going to go ahead and paint this section right here. Sharpen that. Give me a little bit sharper of an edge. Sharpen that there. And then the exact same thing. This is a very rinse and repeat process. Extract. I'm going to go ahead and just say accept that. Okay. Soften that mask up a little bit. Geometry. Nope. Lied to you. Yeah, geometry. What I'm talking about. No, deformation. I feel like I'm still brain dead from NAB. Okay, let's polish this up a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. Come through here. Geometry. Keep groups. Yeah, let's actually drop this really, really low. Adaptive down. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jar Jar is definitely a Jedi, 100%. You know, I was on the trope of hating Jar Jar Binks like the rest of the world for so long, and then one day I just didn't. One day I was like, you know what, he's not so bad. Okay, so I'm gonna. If you guys ever get it where you see this right here, I have this curve line, I drew it out and it like popped over here. Well, I had a point of history on another subtool selected, and so it had the red bar over here in this bottom corner, and because of that, it was trying to actually map this curve to that shape. So if you ever get that, go ahead and make sure you don't have any of the control history state, clear that, and then that will track to the original mesh. Why do you choose to be the way that you are, mesh? Let's just go ahead. Sometimes it's better to just manually fix that. Come through here. Let's just do delete. Boop. That's fine. There we go. And then let's count them out. So we got 5 on this side, and we have 4 over here. So ZRemesher. I'm sorry. ZModeler insert. Then I'm just going to come through here. I'm just going to bridge. Sometimes it's just easier to fix. So this point to this point. Sometimes it's just easier to fix this. Come through here, just attach that in manually. I can come through on this edge, insert multiple inserts, keep polygroups, add in a couple loops right here, right? Come through, do a relaxed smooth, add this in, bada bing, bada boom. Now I can grab this section right here. And again, I can't see anything what's going on, so dynamic thickness, let's keep that thickness in check. Let's come through here, let's add some thickness. But again, that's just thickness that is going to project what it could be, but it's not actual. We'll keep things nice and even. Let's tap right there. Let's rotate that around. There we go. Now this band might be a little thick for what we're going for, so let's actually drop that. That's okay. So what we could do now that we have some pretty even topology, right, is I could just come through here. Let's actually select lasso. Let's just get rid of, oh, okay, yeah, that's good. Good job. Come through here. Let's get rid of those. Modify topology, delete hidden. Maybe let's get rid of this top one too. We don't need that. There we go. Now again, hit dynamic. Just put that in. Yeah, these straps make a little bit more sense. We're still very much in the blackout sense, so I'm not too worried about exactly where everything is. I'm just trying to get it close enough. There we go. That should be fine. Come back here, clear that mask off. And I'm just going to apply a generic thickness to this as well. So I'm just going to hit D for dynamic and then give me a little bit of thickness. And we'll do a segment smooth of 1, just so it looks like cloth. Let's go ahead and save it. Today is Alien Day. Yeah, I think it is, actually. Something about that. Sure, they can come down. It's Alien Day. Someone should sculpt the Xenomorph. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I guess I'm matched up. I'm kind of on an alien trend here. So this kind of works. Okay, let's bring all this closer. All right. I need to figure out what the backside looks like. But let's actually get some of his other shapes on there. Oh, okay. Okay. I see something on there that actually looks kind of cool. So let's move his wings down a little bit. I have those just a little bit too high. I'm going to come over here to his actual body here. I'm going to turn on transparency so I can get this right. And then I'm going to go ahead and, not with the mass lasso, lie to you. Gonna come through here. Gonna mask this shape here. Keep this piece separate. Hey, Cube is here. Hi, how you doing? NAB was awesome. You were missed, but everything was awesome. Wish you could have been there. We would have partied harder. It would have been awesome. But it was good. It was good, actually. A lot of great feedback for my presentation because NAB is usually like, I think there's not a lot of like super advanced ZBrush users. So we ended up doing like a whole pipeline process presentation between me and a few others on the team, as well as with Anna Carolina. And so that was really cool. So I got to do a lot of fun projects with her. And then yeah, I met a lot of really amazing artists, really got to connect with just in general with everybody, especially some of our partners. So it was really, really great. Lots of fun. Why? Oh, okay, I know why that is. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to soften this up. So in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to do a little trickery here because I want to utilize the mask. So let's come through here. Let's actually go to polish, not by groups, by features, smooth that up. That's great. Make this a single right there. And then now I'm going to go ahead and ZRemesh. But this time, because I don't have, I'm still going to keep groups on for 0, but I'm going to keep creases because that usually sets up shop with a crease, but I don't have that original mask there. Let's try that. Let's go really, really low. 2, adaptive, boom. How low can you go? Let's see. So here I'm actually going to use that ZRemesher guide again. Come through, get something like that. Perfect. That's nice. That's perfect. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. And now instead of fighting this secondary strip here, I'm actually going to just come through here and delete hidden. So working with just those 2 strips should be more than fine for what I want to do. And I can always thicken this up by going into extrude. And then I'm going to come through here. I can make this thicker by drawing this out. So I'm actually going to turn off symmetry and draw this out. And I'm going to tap the Alt button. And this is going to drag this out. If you tap the Alt button a couple times, you get a few different variations. So I can even do something like that if I wanted to, which that works out. And then I'm actually going to get rid of the creases that are there. So I'm going to go ahead and say uncrease all. There we go. Gives me just a little bit of thickness. D for dynamic. And let's apply a dynamic thickness as well. You saw some of Anna's presenting. Yeah, she's really gotten good at it. Yeah, dude, it was awesome having Anna there. Honestly, I felt super honored to be able to hang out with her and to present with the same project and then be on the backside. So it was really cool for her to be a part of a whole like pipeline talk and taking the assets. And it was so neat. Like, yeah, I could talk about that all day. It was really cool. Okay, so I'm going to do a smooth relax. Just get this roughly in place. We don't have to be perfect with it. Okay, now I'm actually going to go ahead, Control-Shift-D. I'm going to duplicate that. And the reason why is because now I'm going to go ahead and drop this down here to the back side of him. Like this. Now, I want to see something. I want to see how far we can push this. So I'm going to go ahead and do... So I want this to be relatively straight. And this is single-sided geometry. So I'm going to come up here. So this is like really curving around his neck area. And that's not going to match his back very nicely. So I'm actually going to come through here. And I'm going to grab my clip curve. And I'm going to clip it right there. There we go. Yes. So I'm going to clip this right here, all the way down. And then I'm going to do a smooth relax. Really pushing that. This is why I love working with single-sided geometry as well, because you're able to really shove that mesh back and we're not hurting the integrity of it whatsoever. There we go. Now we can move that right into place where we want it to. So let's just come down through. Let's drop that here. And then let's push this up and buckle that in. And we'll decide if we want that on the top or underneath. And then again, we'll add some thickness to that. There we go. Getting that vest on there. A nice slow build, a little slow burn. Yo, Andrew, what's happening, dude? Welcome in, welcome in. Let's see if I missed anything. Mastaful, how you doing, buddy? If I did say hi, welcome in, welcome in. You have to go. Have a good rest of your day, everyone, and thanks for all the sharing. And an early May the 4th be with you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Always a pleasure. All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Cool. We'll continue through. All right, so we got some belts now that we're gonna do here. So I'm gonna attach some belts that are gonna loop around him really simply here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to duplicate his body. I'm gonna save. I don't think I've done that yet. Now I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna delete. We're gonna first make. We're gonna delete lower. We're gonna make a single poly group here. And in fact, what you could do as well, because we're just dealing with his body, we could just isolate all of this down. Delete, not delete higher. We can go to the lowest subdivision level. Delete hidden because we're just dealing with the body. Step that all the way back up. Delete lower. So now we're dealing with very little geometry. Now I want the belt to wrap around his belly. And so the way I'm going to do that is actually by using SliceCurve. I'm going to come through and slice right there. And now I'm going to also come through and slice like this. In fact, let's see here. Maybe something a little bit more along these lines. Okay, perfect. That sounds good. And now from here, we're going to make these little belt droops. So I'm going to come through here. I'm going to grab the curve, flat snap. And as I start dragging this out, if I press and hold shift, it's going to wrap around that poly group. And let's actually go a little bit lower. So we get something that looks like that. And if that one's not working out for us, we could actually do, where are you? Curve flat. Yeah, that could be a little bit better. There we go. Tap that one. And tap that one. That actually might be a little bit low. Let's actually do that one more time. Geometry's a little crunchy, so let me see something here real fast. Let me see something real fast. It's giving me a little crunchy result, so let's go to ZRemesher. Let's actually, you know what? No, yeah, let's go to ZRemesher. Brain's working 100 miles an hour. Let's drop this down. Let's just see if we can get some even quads around there. Break up that just a little bit. Get something to drink. So may I ask how to move a mask? And also, is there a way to duplicate the mask? Yes, you absolutely may ask. So when you mean move a mask, do you mean like this? Or do you mean I mask a section and then I want to move that? Because if you mask a section, I can't move that. But if you want to do this, then this part's easy. This part, all you do is when you have your mask out, before you position it, you're just pressing and holding Control and the space bar. If I let go of the space bar, it stays. But if I press and hold the space bar while I'm pressing Control, I can move that mask anywhere I want, and then I can go ahead and drop it. Same thing with the lasso. If I want to move the lasso around, or same thing with the curve, move that around, it's all pressing and holding the space bar at that point. But if you mask a section and now you want to move that section, you will have to remask. But if I'm like masking a section, I'm like, actually it's not there, I need it over, press and hold space bar, and now you can move that. Yeah. So with this section here, and then they probably did this. Hey, what's up, Odon? How you doing? You could also mask a section, press and hold Alt and let go, and that will do the opposite of the mask. That will unmask the section you have selected and then come through. Is there a way to duplicate a mask? Not that I can think of at the top of my head. I can't. I'm literally drawing a blank. I don't think so. DiceScan, unless you have a thought process, I don't think you can just like. You can. What you can do is you can grow or shrink a mask. So if I come under here to masking, you can actually come through here and you can grow a mask, or you can shrink a mask, which is basically the same thing as like coming through here. This is a bit of a blur. I don't think you can duplicate. Nope. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm like trying to pull in the back of my brainstem. I'm like, somewhere back here, there's knowledge, and is that part of it? So, but great question. Yeah. Good. Caught you on my lunch break. Nice, Odon. Awesome. Nice to see each of us is working on our own May the 4 Star Wars piece. Yep. I have sculpted a Mandalorian Death Watch helmet. I've done a lightsaber. I got hard surfaced out, so now I'm doing this guy. Okay, so same thing. Let's actually come through here. There we go. That's a lot. That is a lot cleaner of a mask. So, not a mask, a curve. So before, if I back up here, let's back up. So when I was making these selections, let's come back in time. Okay, so when I used the SliceCurve, I had a lot of these different steps and all these triangles here. They were coming through, and it was causing, even though this is a clean separation, these little steps were causing the curve to just give me a little bit of a weird variation in the mesh. So a quick ZRemesh with that secret sauce solution that I keep talking about, that right there gave me a really nice clean selection. So now I can use that curve snap to come through and get a much better and a cleaner belt for what I would like. I'm going to control that with my brush size, and then now that that's something that I like, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. So I'm going to give me 2 different belts. Beautiful. Okay, and now I can come through and isolate these, and then I can separate them out. Or I could just go ahead and, let's see, do I have any other belts on him? No, those are the 2 main belts. So I can just come through here, geometry, modify topology, and delete hidden. And now I have these belts here, and then I'm going to give this a little bit of thickness. Now I'm going to separate these belts. These are 2 different belts. They're not the same. They're not attached. It looks like they might, well, they're attached via like hooks, but it doesn't look like they are of one mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and just split hidden. And let's rename this belt 1 because we're really thorough, and we'll rename this belt 2. Okay. And now from here, what I'm going to do is just give it a little bit of thickness. So I'm going to go to Dynamic Subdivision, put that bad boy on, and of course give it some thickness. Now what I'll also do is center this, hold control, and do a control inflate. Because I'm not really going for 3D printing at the moment, what I can do with this is actually just keep those a little bit off his body. Same thing here. Recenter that. Control inflate that. Single-sided geometry so that works out well. And then turn on dynamic with some thickness. And now with the move. And this is where we get to kind of now finesse his body a bit. See which belt goes over what. This actually, I think I'm going to push this underneath him. This belt will come here. Very, very cool. And then with that same curve flat brush, what I can do is there's a couple pieces that actually like droop down from like here. So now check this out. Notice that like I want this to droop on his body. I'm going to hide the vest for a second, which is this guy right here. So let's rename this vest. And if we want to be a little bit more thorough here, I'm going to load this guy up. I'm going to turn on the quote pizza box. I'm going to deselect everything. I'm going to touch the belt, the vest, and all the little facets that is of the same item. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead, Control F. It's going to ask if I want to add all that, and I'll call this vest belts. Vest and belts. Perfect. Okay. So now that's all in one folder. A little bit easier to work with. Now I want to actually add a little piece that attaches from here to here. Easiest way to go about doing this, in my opinion, from here, we're going to come through. We're just going to go ahead and grab, not his body. Not his body. Let's grab his belt here. But with this vest, I'm going to hide the vest for a second. Okay, and now I'm going to grab the curve flat, which I have. And again, I'm dragging this out, but it's only touching parts of his body. And I want it to actually kind of form to his body. I want it to flow on the body. So this is where ZBrush is really unique. You can always change the function of a brush. And the picker is like this hidden menu that's in plain sight that has a lot of power. So I'm going to put the picker over here just by docking it. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up depth. And I want you guys to focus on this little section right here. The depth with the Z target, and it says once Z, continuous Z, closest Z, or furthest Z. And this is what really drives a brush function. So right now, what 1C means is when I start dragging out this curve, it's going to one time take a look at the first point in which I make contact with my mesh, and that's the point of contact in which the brush itself will start. Everything else as I drag out will get ignored. So it just focused on the first time that I touch the brush to the mesh and started sculpting. If I go to continuous Z, as I drag this up, it's going to continuously look at the mesh underneath it and anything that gets in the way, and it's going to snap to the body. And I could do this with any brush. So by coming up to picker, depth, and continuous Z, what I can do now is I can say, look, under this vest is a little belt strap that's connected to it. So I'm going to click and drag this down, and now that's going to hold to that actual mesh. And then same thing, if I start adding more to it, so maybe I go a little bit underneath, it's going to pay attention to that mesh itself, and it's going to move and position it in a way that is giving me the results that I want. Now this actually connects from, let's back this up here. Now this actually connects from here to here, and notice it actually paid attention to that main belt surface there. I'm okay with that. This is a thinner one. I could just shove that geometry right back underneath because this actually goes underneath this belt, and then it connects to this guy here. So we can just keep this all one shape, but this is also going to help us maybe give us a little bit of a little detail, a little bow, and then I can push this, move this back up, maybe attach this to this vest here. So I don't have to do as many steps as before, whereas I'd like grab a shape, drag it all out. It got me really close to where I needed to be. And that's a lot better. And then I can manipulate each one of these. Again, coming back here, I can come through here and I can split unmasked points, now leaving that a separate geometry and keeping that just a little bit disconnected for now. I try not to weld anything together unless I absolutely have to. Okay. All right, I think we have time to make, we have time to make a pouch, make a couple pouches. He has some cool little equipment. Epic beer belly. I know, right? Boop, 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 boop. Let's see here. For that usually... Oh, say, okay. That's okay. Answering questions. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Then I ask how artists make multiple same shapes on ZBrush, same shapes in same size. Yeah. Okay, so usually drag alpha, drag dot, etc. So the drag dot's really cool. So if I go to like a standard brush here and I do the drag dot, this one's really fun. I don't see a lot of artists using this as much as I would like to see them. I see a lot of artists going here to drag dot and then doing some sort of like alpha and then dragging this out. And this is cool. This works You know what I mean? Like, this is helpful, but you cannot get the same size every single time, right? It's just not possible. You can get pretty close though. A lot of artists do just eyeball that. What makes a drag dot so special is that when I click one time, it's based on my brush size. So if I click one time here, it's based on my brush size. So I can always get the same one. But what's really cool is before I let go of the pen, I can actually drag that alpha around and place it exactly where I want that to be. So with the drag dot, not only can you keep it the exact same size, but if I have this texture here, I can position this texture, position this one, scale my brush down, maybe come on up, make that the same, move that around. So while it's looking very repetitive right now, you get the point of like, I get to click and then move that wherever I want, then let go when I'm done. And that's super, super helpful when, especially when you're trying to blend in, because I'm sure a lot of you have been here before where you're like, okay, I want to drag this out here. Now I want to match that. I guess that's cool. Okay, I'll smooth that down later, and I need to match this, and there's just no positioning that whatsoever. You're stuck from that point of contact. This is where the drag dot is, in my opinion, superior, is that I'm able to click one time, get the exact size that I want. So a couple attempts, you know, you find something that you like, maybe adjust your intensity just to get something a little bit more subtle. Come through here, find it. Once you find it, boom, now it's the same thing. And you could just start tapping and dragging. So there's actually a Z plugin for keeping the exact same size of IMM brushes. Let's see if I load up the website real fast. So under community, I'm gonna go back. Second. Let's back up. Download center. If you go to ZBrush plugins, so the one you're referring to. Not that one. Just move on down. I actually don't use it as often as maybe I should. I've downloaded it a few times. Is the... Yeah, I think that was it, right? That was it. No, IMM draw size. There it is. The IMM draw size. So the IMM, do I have it installed? Can't remember. No, I don't have this one installed, but the IMM draw size keeps it so that when you set a draw size and then you can drag out an IMM. Let's actually do something like this. Clear that out. Yes, I have subdivisions on. Don't do that. Let's come here. Come on. Just give me this one. There we go. Grab the wings. My wings don't have subdivisions. So as I drag out maybe something like, just do a basic primitive BIT, do something like this. If I drag this out and I come in, I press and hold control, that would actually, I believe it's control, that would give me the same exact size. Yeah, that's the one that you want. So IMM draw size. If you guys don't have the link for that, I don't have it installed, so it's not working, but you can come through here and go boop. You should be able to get that from there. Yeah. Is IM for... Yep, thank you, that's great. This is live, but it will go. It will come back. So it's always my live. All the live streams we do always stay on. It just takes us a little bit to chapter it. So after this, usually I go through and I take a little bit of time and chapter them so they make sense. But yeah, you'll be able to come back through. In fact, we get asked this a lot. So if you go to our YouTube channel and you go to our Pixelogic ZBrush channel, and then you come here under live, you can see all of our live streams past recordings. And if you go back to one like, oh look, here's Dice Case, here's the one I did with a helmet, I go through and I actually chapter each section. So if you're like, okay, Yeah, how did he make that lens face plate? You can come to that chapter. So I go through and chapter these all the time to try to make sure that they that you guys can come back and view, especially like this part right here. I get asked this all the time. How did I do this section? And so, yeah, you're able to come through and actually see the process, which I relied a lot on Polished by Groups. So definitely just go to that and then check that out. So even after this gets done being live, you'll be able to go through there. So many infinite knowledge. Absolutely. And it's all thanks to the artists, much like A-Cube, ISK, myself, Steven Anderson, Anna Carolina. There's tons and tons. Shane Olsen's on there. Like, so many people are on here. Amazing talented artists. And we're actually adding in a few more soon. In fact, one of them, he's really, really excited. You might know him as the Digital Chef, aka Patrick 4D. Go check out his work. He also presented at NAB. He's going to be on the ZBrush Live team as well. So he's super stoked, and he uses ZBrush in a very unique way. So if you're hungry for food, he's the guy to watch because he likes food. Okay. All right. Okay, let's correct that little backside. All right, perfect. So let's make a pouch. We got time to make a pouch, and then I'll make a couple other variations of said pouch. We can go as crazy with this as we want. Let's go ahead and save this, and then let's actually clean that. Let's put them over here. I talk a lot, so my process is usually a little bit slower, so as long as you guys don't mind that. Okay, what do we got here? That's his tongue. I really got to learn to do that. Okay, great. So let's actually do this. Let's actually come through, invert this, and I'm going to add this to a folder. Let's call this Watto body. Okay, cool. Now those folders are organized. I can move that one above it. Come through. Let's make a pouch. So I'm actually going to start with a Q cube. Start with something like this, and then I'm just going to go straight down to initialize Q cube with 1111. So I have something like that. Very, very tiny. Scale that up just a little bit. And let's get the size of our pouch going in. His pouches are fairly simple. They're not too complicated. But we can actually do a little bit of TLC to this. So I'm going to make this a single poly group. Find a unique color that's vibrant, and then let's go modify topology, mirror and weld. That's going to give me a nice center line, and then from here let's actually give it a little bit of shaping. So I'm actually going to come through here with the ZModeler, grab this side, let's make sure symmetry is turned on, and I'm going to do inset all. Give me just a little bit of an inset here. Want to do it that way? Actually, no. I want to do this. I'm going to inset it like this. Add to the top of that a little bit. And then I'm going to go with QMesh, and we're going to drag this in just a little bit. We're going to do a couple, because when I do this, it's going to give me a nice lip. And then we'll come through here, insert a single edge. No, let's not do that, actually. Let's come through here. Let's inset this guy just a little bit. There we go. And we're going to do a little bit of here. Let's actually go a little bit more with that. There we go. Now I'm going to push this in just a bit with QMesh. So give me something like that. So it gives me a little bit of this kind of lip to it. Now we're going to use some edge loops to control that fall off. So we're just going to come through here, insert. So if I do something like this, and like this, now I get that kind of pocket effect, which is nice. I'm going to do the same thing on the top. And add this area here. It's going to give me this little shape. And that's going to be kind of cool. I like that. Oh, and is there a tutorial for every ZModeler explained Blueface? Yeah, for every ZModeler explained, I don't think, no. But if you have a particular one you're curious on, I can go over it with you. Because I know ZModeler has, there's a lot of functionality to it. The cool part is that a lot of this, if you look at ZModeler as a whole, look at it as a order of operations tool, not a tool with a lot of menus. So like if I hover over a face, an edge, or a point, and then I press and hold the space bar, order of operation from top all the way down the bottom. That's the way to really look at it. So I have action. What's my action first? That action is going to dictate. And a lot of these actions, in my opinion, are roughly self-explanatory. You know, QMesh would be one that's just like, what is that? That's our special way of extruding, because it's not just an extrusion, but it also supports edge loops and actually attracts to edge loops and other facets. It doesn't just extrude through. It actually recognizes the mesh that's there and helps close holes in the process, like especially if you're pushing through. But once you have something like that, you know, you come through, you'll notice that it changes almost immediately. When I pick a new action, it gives me a new menu. And so from there, it's like, okay, I have QMesh. Now what do I do? And the target, what am I actually targeting? When I'm targeting something, like most of us will utilize the polygroups as a target, like polygroup border. What does that do? Well, that's going to really focus on any polygroup from the border aspect, right? If you have, that's on the border. If you have polygroup inner and I pick something, it's gonna, wherever I'm picking, it's going to find the inner portion, right, of that section. So instead of doing this, which I did here, where I like pushed this in independently and now gave me that edge, I actually could have just come through and it would have detected the polygroup and the border of it and found the closest border of that polygroup, pushing in that section. So once you find, same with extrude, initialize, delete, crease, when you pick something, that's your action, then you're basically just manipulating that action to do what you want it to do. So if you look at it in those terms, it becomes a little bit easier to wrap your head around action first, then target, and then a fine tuning of a target. If you have a action and then a target, and then you do a fine tuning, that's just more of like giving you more control from that. So for example, when I did inset before, let's say I had like this section here, right? On this surface, this is pretty low. If I inset this, there's a good possibility that this area right here is going to break, okay? So instead of, you know, maybe just relying on the settings, I can then fine tune this a little bit more. Maybe I want a more custom snap to it, which will give me just a little bit more control. And that helps me identify that edge just a little bit better. So think of it in those terms and it makes ZModeler a lot easier. But if you have any questions about a specific one, let me know. Yeah, Joseph did one for the initial release. There's been a lot added to it. But yeah, that's a good starting spot. And thanks for dropping that link, Daisuke. But for like every section of every piece, yeah, that's a lot. Okay. Let's continue forward with this. So I have this shape here now. Now I want to add like a little bit of a lip to this. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to utilize the existing geometry. So, and also too, let's insert another couple loops here just to give me some more fall off control. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab this here. And I'm going to drag this out with QMesh, press and hold Control, tap Alt a few times, give me a different polygroup. Actually, keep it in the Z button. Let me actually add in this as well. There we go. Mask that section off. Now we're going to rotate this around. Going to widen this. Now this is the actual lip or lid. What is it? We're going to add this guy here, and now I'm going to go ahead. Going to mask this section. And this section. Because I want to be able to actually kind of pivot this in. I want to bring this down, maybe rotate that in a little bit, push it in, make it seem like it's attached. I'm going to squeeze this in just a little bit. Or something like that. Okay, now we need to give this a little bit of TLC. Come here with the insert. There we go. We could actually add a couple more edges. I keep it pretty low in the beginning. Okay. Let's actually move this up and above his head. I always start with the first one, and then from here, let's actually come over, and instead of doing this border, we're just going to go ahead and do polygroup all. Tap Alt a couple times, give me a different polygroup. Okay. That's looking pretty decent. Now I want to make this a little bit thicker, so I'm going to press and hold Shift. Same thing on the inside. Press and hold Shift. Going to make that just a little bit thicker. I can actually push this one in a bit. There we go. Now here we have two completely different tools. They're not welded together. So let's actually do polygroups. I do this a lot where I'll do auto groups. So I'll have two different tools. So I can select this one fast, invert that. Now I'm going to use the Move Infinite. The Move Infinite is a great brush that's B, M, and N. Because what I could do from here is infinitely move the double-sided geometry, give me a little bit more control of how I manipulate this. So it's grabbing infinitely behind or through the mesh. So I'm moving both sides at the same time. Yeah, we'll say something like that. And then let's actually mask this section off. Let's actually raise this up a little bit. Very cool. Give me something like that. Now let's add a little bit of volume because this is too square. So this is where I can either subdivide once. So here, instead of adding my own edge loops, I could just come through, say, you know what, dynamic subdiv is on, so I'm going to subdivide a couple times and then just delete lower, give me just a little bit of mesh like this, still sculptable, which is fine. And then from here I can actually come through, maybe take inflate, or I could take maybe the clay brush at this point. So I'll actually take the clay brush, not clay buildup. I'll push this in a little bit. Okay. Don't really see that inside. We can actually come through, give it just a little bit of volume. Maybe do a little bit of a relaxed smooth. Build that up a little bit. Hey, Rodolfo, how you doing? Creases are either on or off. That is correct. However, a little secret, a little tippy tip. Yes, you can either have a crease on or off. So if I come through here and I do, let's say, like polygroups and group by normals, because we're fun like that, geometry, crease, and crease polygroups. Yeah, your creases are either on or off, except you have this thing called crease levels, and it's automatically set to level 15. That's super high. I don't think I've ever made it to level 15 subdivision, but you could. It's there, and you can go that high if you wanted to. So instead of doing that, though, what you can do is drop this down to, like, let's say a 3 or 4. So for example, if I just actually keep this here and we subdivide, it's always going to remain sharp. This is subdivision level 5 at this point, right? So this is subdivision level 5, and let's clean this guy here, and we're going to go ahead and just stamp this, Shift S. Okay. Now I'm going to back up in time. And now here I'm going to say crease level. Let's actually just go low for the example. Let's say 2. And now I'm going to subdivide, subdivide. And now I'm on subdivision level 4. And notice I'm actually getting some roundness to this. But this is still creased. If I zoom in, we're still very much creased. But it starts giving you a little bit of a fall off. And depending on how high that subdivision level is, and the distances between each edge loop will depend on that fall off. So you can actually come through and set a crease level very low to get a nice soft fall off without having a lot of subdivision. But you can also control the edge crease tolerance, i.e. like 45-degree angle. You can adjust this to actually set a crease tolerance of something a little bit lower. So if I were to say, you know, level 15 or like 15-degree angle, then that's going to definitely affect it even faster than if I said something like 136. So you can definitely jump through and adjust your tolerance. But I usually just adjust the crease level itself to maybe like, let's say 2, subdivide, subdivide, gives you a nice softer edge, but it still keeps that crease. So while the crease function itself is on or off, you can control it with those levels. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you want to move multiple subtools at the same time, how could you do that? Very awesome question. So there's a few ways to go about doing that. Let me actually come through. I'm going to delete this cube. And let me come through and say save. Let's grab our cylinder. So there's a couple ways to go about doing this. So let's make a few selections. So I'm going to make this one, put this one up here. And I'm going to make this one and put this over here. Okay. So if I wanted to move all 3 of these or 2 of these at a time, the easiest way to do it is to turn on your gizmo and select your transpose all selected subtools, press and hold shift and control, and tap the ones that you want to manipulate. Okay. And you can move them in either direction. You can even scale them accordingly if you would like to. The scaling part, that might get a little wild, so just be careful with that. You scale it here. Scaling one on local sim, but the other one is not scaling on local sim. So, you know, you would want to just make sure that you're just careful with the scale factor, but you can move, shrink them, etc. However, there's another way to do that, and that's called align. So, for example, let's say we have all of these tools here. This one specifically is set at a 90, and it's rotated here. And then this one is set over here like such. Great. And now I want these all to touch the floor plane at the exact same time. So what I'm going to do, let's turn on my floor. There's my floor, just so you can see visually. If I go to align, I now have these buttons down here. And this allows you to, whatever tool you have selected, it will help align those, they'll help align all the other tools to the tool you have selected. So I want all these on the floor, select that one, snap them all down to the floor. And now they're all at the floor perfectly fine. I want them all centered. Based on that subtool that's selected, I can now center them to that spot. I want them to be aligned a little bit differently. Again, whatever subtool I have selected, like I want them to intersect with this one, they're going to go straight into the middle. But if I have this one up here, I want to move everything to this, or I want to move everything to that point, select that tool, come to align, select it. They all move. So that's a different way of moving them. Grab the monitor and move it over a few inches. There's that too. There you go. There you go. Oh, good job. Good job. What's up, Travis? How you doing? Yellow. All right. All right. So we got this little bag that we're manipulating a bit. You know what we could do with this bag too? Little pouch he has going on here. I'm going to come through here. I'm actually going to go ahead and do a little bit of a, let's go local sim. Let's set this in the center. There we go. Let's get a little bit of that happening. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a brush inflate here. we could also do as well, just for fun, let's get in, let's add a DamStandard. Let's increase the intensity just a bit. I'm going to select this guy. I'm going to come through here. Just adding a few strokes to it. And I'm going to take the standard brush, so BST. Standard brush is a great brush for just getting some like really interesting cloth inflations, or you're just trying to, something has detail on it, you need to kind of boost it up a bit. You can add some really quick little wrinkles or movements to said thing. And this is kind of a bag, so there's some asymmetrical things to it. There you go. Okay, great. Let's grab this one right here. Turn on symmetry. Want to make sure this just kind of attaches. Do I want to smooth that down? No, that's fine. But I do want to just kind of maybe push that up a little bit and then move that down. Just shove it in there. Should be good. Okay, great. Yeah, that should be fine. That should be fine. No need to get picky on it. You, absolutely. No problem. I love giving any types of tips and tricks I can. I know ZBrush, you know, the interface on this sense, a lot of people say the interface is really like crazy, and I can understand that. When I first started in ZBrush, oh man, it's going on 9 years ago now? 8, 9 years ago. ZBrush seemed at first a little intimidating, but what was really cool about it is once I saw the pattern of this UI, you know, like at the top, it's all alphabetical. The brushes are on a very specific location, and you pretty much live over here in the tool palette, unless you're doing any type of plugin or you want to do any modification. Really, it's like to just start sculpting, all you need to know is the brushes side and the tool side, and then that's it. Everything else, you can get away with like knowing only like 5% of this program, which I always encourage those to learn more. But what's cool is there's always little things about it that just makes the experience better. And so I try to help with that as much as possible. Actually told somebody at NAB that my goal is to, I truly believe anyone can pick up ZBrush in 5 minutes if they have the right person explaining it. I try to explain it in a way that I would have wanted it explained to me the very first time. So, hopefully, thankfully, you guys are finding it helpful. So, thank you for being so awesome. Okay. Okay, what we're going to do now with this bag, I'm going to take this guy. We're going to mask this off. We're going to shrink this in a little bit. Not control shrink. We're just going to shrink this in just a little bit. Don't like the asymmetrical... I mean, I don't like the symmetrical feel of this bag at the moment. I want just a little bit of... need a little bit of non-uniformity. You're only 4% of the way. Woohoo! We'll get you there. We'll get you there. Don't even worry. You're in good hands. You're in good hands. Okay. I'm spending way too long on this bag. I'm actually starting to nitpick it a little bit. So for right now, let's call this a pouch. Let's call this a pouch, and let's put it in its own folder. We'll call this pouches. I called it pouch did. So cool. We'll go with that. I'm not ashamed of my game. And I'm going to leave this bag alone. So I'm going to call this actually OG pouch. Okay. I'm going to duplicate it, rename, and call this pouch 1. Where are we out on time? Okay, we're basically out of time. So I'm going to call this pouch 1. And the reason for that, we'll move this up. is that I'm going to hide the OG pouch, and this is a way I can come through and actually manipulate it. We can change this later, but for right now, let's get this pouch here. So I'm still very much in the blockout phase, but so I'm going to continue to work on this in my personal time because I really like how this character's coming out. We got a lot of work to do with him, so I'll be super excited to get to a point where everything will be. We'll make personal buckles and stuff like that, but yeah, this will be good. And I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? This will be pouch 2, and I'm gonna give him the same pouch, but on the back side of him. Okay, and we're actually gonna come over here. And we'll put it behind him. So he'll have 2 of the same pouch, but I want to make another pouch or 2. So maybe shrink this one down just a little bit. Maybe we'll give him like this spot here, and maybe we'll just Control D or Control Shift D, duplicate, put this over here, rotate this around, give him a secondary pouch back here. I like the number 3 a lot when it comes to designing stuff. So anytime I see something that's like, I can't do like, he can't have 4 bags. He either has to have 3 bags or 5 bags. Like he can't have 4. Something about an even number drives me nuts. So one day there's gonna be a what really grinds Ian's gears game, and you guys are gonna be like, oh man, he ranted about even number of items. There you go. Okay, cool. So now we can see a little bit. He's coming together. He's coming together. We could even at this point add in just a little bit of color to him. I don't like to work in grayscale for too long. It drives me nuts. You guys are learning a lot about me today. I can tell you right now. Let's go Z color. Let's actually come over here. So I want to actually pick this color. I want to see. He's kind of a bluish color. Let's actually grab it from the movie. The bluish grayish color. Bluish grayish greenish color. Let's actually switch colors over here. Let's go back to my pure ref, and then let's grab this kind of, I'm going to grab it from here. Say set color. Okay, great. Red wax. Believe it or not, red wax does not drive me nuts, actually. I remember as a joke, I think A-Cube, if you're still here, I think you were in this stream, but I did it was like a bunch of us ZBrush live artists were in a stream. And anyway, I did the whole sculpt in red wax. It was a joke because I know a lot of people are like, red wax, don't do that. But for me, I was like, oh, we're doing this. We are doing this. And I don't know. It was just, I thought it'd be good. I thought it'd be funny. So, okay, let's do a quick paint job. Don't want to go too far over, but at the same time, I want to be able to add a little bit of, ooh, that is way too bright. Okay, so let's get some temporary colors in there. Let's go start at material. Cool, great. And again, guys, the QR code that's on the screen, it's for May the 4th. And if you're watching this after the fact, like if this is being, you guys are watching this via recording, this is good up until the May the 4th, but it's there for you to submit your artwork. And you can always submit your artwork even after the fact. So don't be shy. Send in your artwork. We'd love to see it. You can also tag me too. If anybody like just is doing artwork and you want to have me take a look at it or just see it publicly, yeah, tag me in it. Iris Sculpts. Give it a tag because I always love seeing what people do. I always find it amazing. Okay, let's do really quick, a rough paint job here just to bring this character a little bit more to life. There we go. A little bit of, there's a little bit of color. This is probably the fastest I've ever painted a character. Same thing, let's actually grab this here. I kept this in Polygroups for a reason, so I could just fill this color with blue, come through here, switch my color, and then fill that there. So already have that set up, ready to go. And then I can actually come through and just maybe blend those two colors together, we'll see. And then, of course, too, this vest is a little bit on the leathery side, so we're going to go here. Let's actually, because this is all the vest components, let's use a brand new feature where we actually come through here and we go to, now you go to Polygroup, oh, sorry, you go to Polypaint and you say Fill, and then you come up to Subtool, and in that menu, I can actually say Apply Last Action, so everything in that menu gets done. And then here, these are actually kind of grayish teeth with a little bit of yellow. So let's do something like that. The tongue, of course, we got to make that tongue. Got to make that tongue a little pinkish, right? Here we go. And then come through here. Let's grab that. Let's grab that guy right there. Cool. Let's go color. And just going to color fill. Okay, and then for the eyes here, what I'm going to do with the eyes is keep it almost white. Not true white. I never do true white, but I'm also going to go with toy plastic. I'm going to go RGB and M for material, and then switch that back. Okay, why didn't that take? Why didn't that take? Go ahead. Fill. Perfect. All right, there we... What's happening here? Do I have a texture on there? Or is it masked? It's masked. It is masked. Good job, Ian. Good job. Beautiful. All right, let's come up here. Color. There we go. There we go. That's better. You did a thing. All right, check your masks. Perfect. So now we have something like this. And this is something I actually, from the ZBrush Summit last year, one artist did this with his eyes, and I loved it so much. I couldn't not do this. So I now do this with all my eyes. And that is, I come through here, I subdivide a few times, I take black, okay, and I'm going to do with the transparency and RGB, not mRGB, but I do it kind of a little bit light. And I come through here and I start painting where those actual eyelids are. And I paint that section right there, turn that back off. And that just brings a little bit of depth by adding some shadow work just underneath those eyes. So until I decide to come back and actually paint those eyes, this is something that I think really is super cool. Gives you a little bit of shadow. And then I actually did my own little flair to this. What I did with this, what I also do is I come through the back, I get blood red, come on the back side of this with a nice big brush. And I do a little bit of just like a bloodshot color. All right, let that bleed over just a little bit. That just gives me just a little bit of life in those eyes. Maybe you could paint over just a little bit. Just a little bit of life in those eyes. Nothing too crazy. So, all right. This is what we got so far. One more thing I want to do. One more thing I want to do. You're invited. Yay! Oh, that's nice. Nice, nice. Okay, let's do this real quick. I'm going to go with black. I'm going to paint on the inside of his mouth. It's going to give just a little bit of shadow work. Just going to bring a little bit of depth to the character. A little fake AO never hurt anyone. This helps with some visualizations. There we go. Come through here, grab that color, paint that. There we go. There we go. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's looking a little bit better. Cool. So we still have a lot to do, but thank you all for coming in, hanging out. Had a blast, guys. It's been super amazing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me come through here. Let me actually just real fast make this. I keep saying that. I'm going to do this real fast. Real fast. 30 minutes of data. All right. There we go. Let's hit save. Boom. Bada bing, bada boom. All right. Thank you all for coming by. Everything is super awesome. Yes, I also have a Discord as well if you would like to come in. Both Discords work. The official ZBrush one, especially if you have ZBrush questions, definitely pop in there. but you can always find me. Matthew, if you have it, you can always share it too, buddy. But thank you guys for showing up. Had a lot of fun hanging out with this character, hanging out with you guys. It's really, really cool. Again, May the 4th, that is next week on Thursday. So please come through. And then also, let me make sure, where is it? Post your work. We'd love to see it. You know, ZBrush Central is a great place to post your work. You never know who's looking. You never know who's looking. It's just another resource, which is awesome, seeing the work here. But we here on the ZBrush team, love seeing all the work that you guys do. I mean, look at this. It's super awesome. I want this one. Like, it's just super cool seeing all the stuff. This is really neat. I really like that. Really fun. I had to. Shout out to myself. I did that a while ago. Actually, a friend of mine reached out. He was like, why haven't you posted that? It's like, good question. So a lot of fantastic work and a lot of wide ranges of artists. So please come in here, showcase it, because we're going to be showing off a lot of this work on the actual live stream next Thursday. So thank you guys for hanging out again. And I think that is it. So I'm going to let you guys go. Enjoy your day. And again, I'll be streaming next Wednesday, but then I'll be off for 2 weeks or for a couple weeks. So, yeah, just a reminder. Awesome Blossom Sauce. Perfect. All right, I will talk to you guys later. This is the most awkward. This is the most awkward exit ever. So, bye. Yes, it's free to. It's free. Yes.